Sebastian, and I'm pretty sure you know him. You all have been waiting him, and you know him better than I do. Gennady Korotkevich. Yeah. So this is the team. Another hour you will be with them, but like now we are living on the chairs. We'll leave Andrey over here, and we'll be back.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this early in the morning. On behalf of JetBrains, I'm happy to welcome you to the ICPC World Final Moscow. First of all, I would like to express great respect and gratitude to the organizers. The preparation for the final were made in the unprecedented conditions of the pandemic, uncertainty, closed borders. And still we are here in the world final, and that's a great achievement. Congratulations. Great things happen when great minds come together. JetBrains wants to seek out great minds all around the world, support the initiatives, and work together to create great things which make the world a better place. That's why JetBrains is proud to be the global sponsor of the ICPC. We look forward for the next few days. We are going to be here in the finals, and we would like you to meet us and talk to us. Also, the Kotlin Heroes competition, which allows all of you to compete, test your skills in Kotlin language. The next round of it started yesterday, and you can practice, and we would like all of you to take part of it. And I would like to give as much time as possible to my colleague, Sebastian, who will give you a JetBrains product overview. Sebastian.
Everyone, it's really good to finally be back in a real in-person event. You know, it's in a way for me it's kind of poetic because the last time I spoke at an in-person event was during the ICPC North America finals. So it's kind of all kind of comes together. It's a nice conclusion of just staying inside my room all the time and speaking to a camera in an empty office. So it's really good to be here and be surrounded by some of the greatest programmers and competitive programmers out there. So before we actually get into my whole talk, I just want to kind of address the elephant in the room. Again, I was introduced as Sebastian. That's my name. You can see the font size on this, and then you can see Gennady's name size up here. So I think we all know why you're actually here and what you actually want to see. So I'm going to keep my part pretty brief. And we're just going to talk a little bit about what we do at JetBrains, the products that we build, and then we'll see some real exciting live coding right after that. So what's on the menu for today? First of all, I want to talk just a tiny bit about JetBrains as a company. After that, I want to give you a little bit of an overview of some of the products that we build. Some of them you might already use, but some of them, they only came out quite recently, so they might not be on your radar yet. And maybe you can take something away with you that's going to be interesting for you. I also want to talk a little bit about the educational endeavors we have, which will help you maybe learn for yourselves, but also that's something that you can bring to some other people and help other people learn programming as well, because lifelong learning and the pursuit of excellence does seem like something that's pretty tightly connected to the ICPC community. We're also going to be talking very briefly about Kotlin and Kotlin Heroes, which is very atypical for me because I'm a Kotlin developer advocate, so usually you expect me to stand here for 45 minutes just talking about Kotlin, but we'll be delegating that to Gennady, who's hopefully going to convince you that you can do some pretty elegant coding with the Kotlin programming language. So I'm not sure if the introduction really is necessary, but we at JetBrains have a pretty simple yet complicated mission, and that's to make software development, well, more pleasant and also just kind of more productive. And the course that we've kind of chosen as a company to do this is through the power of our tools. We've got a portfolio of more than 20 IDEs, for example, and those are being built by more than 1,500 people now who are all working tirelessly to make sure that people can be more productive, both in their day job or when they also learn new technologies. It seems that this is all paid off because we have more than 10 million users at this point in over 200 countries, which is something that I'm really, really excited about. So our bread and butter really is the integrated development environments, the IDEs. Again, I'm probably preaching to the choir here because you've probably seen a couple of them. But we can play a little bit of a guessing game. We'll give you a couple of cookies if you can correctly name all the abbreviations that we have on the screen. I'm really just trying to drive home the point that for all the major technologies, there probably is a JetBrains tool that can help you with them. I want to highlight a couple of them, of course, though, today that might be particularly relevant to you. So we're going to start out with the classic, at least for this, because I know that a lot of you folks are C++ programmers, and that is CLion, because, well, as luck would have it, we are building a powerful and also cross-platform IDE to write C and C++ code. Now, I'm actually not a C++ developer, so maybe don't take everything I say for like the gospel here, but I've heard from a lot of people that they really enjoy the typical things that you enjoy from IntelliJ-based IDEs. That's things like smart completion and assistance, saving time by generating the boilerplate code that otherwise you would have to type out manually, quick fixes and refactorings, all these kind of things. I'm sure you've kind of seen all of this. One thing that I usually don't put on the slide, but because I know that you folks are probably a little bit more of a keyboard-driven crowd, is the last point, and that is that we have a Vim emulation plugin. So if you are currently working with Vim, and you're very excited to be one of the quickest people on the keyboard, but you don't want to miss out on all the awesome features that we provide in our IDEs, maybe give that a shot and see how you can combine these kind of things. Now, of course, again, I'm not a C++ developer, so don't take it from me. Usually I'd say listen to the professionals. There's a couple of big folks who've fortunately given us a couple of quotes for us to share with you. One of them is Matt Gottbold, who you might know from building the compiler explorer, who says that, well, CLion makes it possible, again, to concentrate on the interesting parts, which is problem solving. And again, I feel like problem solving is something that you folks at ICPC are certainly quite interested in. And the other person that I've just kind of put out on the slide here is Jason Turner, who you might also know because he's pretty big in the C++ community, who especially mentions the real-time feedback that you get when you use our IDEs, and kind of mentions that they are excellent time savers, and who has time to waste in high-stress situations. But really, in a competition like this, you're also not really act as professional developers who have to work with a code base that's been around for years upon years. You kind of have your own demands. So maybe actually don't listen to the professionals, but listen to maybe the team to your left or maybe the team to your right, because we actually collected a couple of statistics from the ICPC World Finals in 2019. We found out that, well, 33% of the competing teams actually used CLion during the competition. So now that you are actually here again in person and you have a chance of chatting with some other people again, take this opportunity, look to your left, look to your right, exchange with your fellow competitors and see maybe you're missing out on some productivity hacks, some tips and tricks. I mean, where better to get them than in an event like this? Now, one of the classics that probably I don't even need to mention is IntelliJ IDEA, because, well, a lot of the industry runs on the JVM, and we are very excited that our flagship product with over 4 million users provides a really nice development experience for people. Something that sometimes gets omitted a little bit, but it's really dear to my heart, is that the core of IntelliJ IDEA is actually, it's an open source product, right? So it's licensed under Apache 2.0. You can go on GitHub right now, check out the source code. If you have enough RAM, you can probably also build it locally. That might be a bit of a challenge, but generally you can build your own IDEs on top of our products as well. I'm not going to go too deep into the different kind of features that we have, obviously, because this talk is kind of more designed as a little bit of a tastemaker. we're up there on the third floor if you actually want to learn a little bit more about what goes inside the IDEs and what kind of features could maybe help you. So we're more than happy to kind of give you some tailored demos there. One thing that I pretty love, though, is integration with Git and GitHub, because when I'm solving problems, I don't want to work with branches and do all my cherry picks on the command line. That's something I personally don't like. I'm very glad IntelliJ does that for me. Well, since we are also, of course, talking about education, we can't really skip over one of the technologies that has really made a big impact over the last decade or so, and that's Python. We're, again, very excited to offer an open source IDE called PyCharm for professional developers, which, once again, I didn't copy-paste the same couple of points about, you know, smart completion, inlay hints, all these kind of things. I didn't copy-paste those 3 times in a row. So I just highlighted a couple of points which I find particularly interesting in the concept of science. Stuff like the fact that if you're using any of the scientific packages, you can immediately see your data or your notebooks right inside the IDE. You have a plotting view which allows you to see the plots of your data directly. But yeah, mostly that's just more of the same goodness. If we haven't convinced you with this kind of yet, again, stop by, talk to us. We would be more than excited to. Now, one thing that I think we've also kind of all learned is that collaboration can be a challenge, but is also something that's really important. And one of the new products that we've recently introduced is JetBrains Space. So JetBrains Space is our collaborative platform that encompasses pretty much everything you need for professional software development. I've written up a couple of use cases here. So whether it's you as a software developer just wanting to have all kinds of things integrated into one, if you're working in a team, if you are managing a classroom and you want to make sure that different teams can work on their own submissions individually, or you want to be self-organized, that's something you can easily do with Space. Now, obviously, when someone says an all-in-one solution, that can mean many, many things. For Space, we have a pretty clear roadmap of what we already have and what we want to have in the future. I've put up a couple of things here. These are things like Git hosting, code review, CI/CD, package management. Of course, we are vendors of IDEs, tight integration with our IDEs as well, which makes all of this quite convenient. We're more than happy to demonstrate that as well. I don't want to dive too deeply into that for time perspectives. Now, of course, collaboration, as we've probably noticed over the last year or so, is something that doesn't just happen on a macro scale. You also want this to happen on a micro scale, right? The experience of pair programming and being multiple people sitting in front of the same monitor and working on the same problems probably sounds a little bit familiar. And we recently launched a tool after a long time in development called Code With Me, which enables exactly this. Just as one of the technologies where, once again, I would personally say seeing is believing, but the idea is essentially this. Imagine just having one IDE, your IntelliJ, your PyCharm, your CLion, connect from multiple machines to the same instance. You can all work together, and you can all use the features that you know and love. That's everything from the debugger to running your tests to just doing a bunch of pair programming with the same kind of inspections that you usually see. And really, we try to make this experience as seamless as possible for people, meaning that you literally just send someone a link, they'll paste that link into their terminal, and they can just get started working with you immediately. The kind of key phrase here, I would say, is it's the same experience that you would have if you work in IntelliJ or CLion, but you get to share it with someone else, and they don't have to be in the same room. They can be on the other side of the globe. It'll still work just fine. Now, obviously, there's a bunch of different features here, and with static slides, the logic of having multiple people work on the same thing, it just doesn't come across. So, once again, my call to action. Stop by, we'll send you an invite link, and you'll be able to work on our projects live with us, because why not? But one thing that I kind of want to highlight especially is the combination between the fact that we have collaborative editing, but also pretty fine-grained permission management, which means you can also do things like read-only. So if you're teaching, give them full access to your computer, but you still want them to navigate the code on their own, or you want to kind of do like a code walk and show someone around inside your code base, or you're just kind of introducing somebody, that's something that you can easily do with Code With Me. But just giving them read access, automatically telling their cursor to follow, and they'll see everything that you do, or they can freely move around in your code base without any kind of issues. Again, one of the big endeavors that I think ICPC is pretty closely connected to is the whole idea of lifelong learning. And we, of course, also want to support both educators and students in their journey. So I want to briefly talk also about what we do. And this is one of my favorite slides, because I don't have to sell you anything, because you'll get all this stuff for free anyway. So if you're a student or you're an educator, you get access to our JetBrains IDEs completely for free. That's our all products pack. So if you could name those technologies back on from a couple of slides back, those are the technologies that you can use for free. That's as simple as usually putting your email address into a form and then getting a registration code a couple of moments later. You can just install those locally on your machine and really start coding away, both at home purposes. Now, for universities, we actually offer a pretty similar deal. We also want to make sure that universities have access to our IDEs directly, for example, to staff computer labs. So we have a bunch of different setups that usually work with whatever configuration universities have. Again, for details, just kind of talk to us. That's mainly for programming classes, but for example, if you're teaching software engineering classes in particular, and you're interested in something like JetBrains Space, we also offer free plans as well as discounted classroom plans that include even more features. You can see that on jetbrains.com/education, or you can talk to us for more of this stuff. In case it wasn't really clear yet in this context, the collaborative things that we have in Code With Me, for example, so just being able to invite a couple of other students, your colleagues, or people that you're currently teaching into the same session, that's all included. You can do all of that. There's no extra cost or nothing hidden like that. But we also go beyond this, because, well, so far we've really just talked about the things that we have, that we build for professional developers. And the needs of professional developers might be different of the needs for someone who's just starting out, or who's really just digging into programming for the first time. That's why we also have a couple of educational editions of some of our integrated development environments. Specifically, we have IntelliJ IDEA as an educational version, and we also have PyCharm as an educational version. And we'll see a little bit more about what that kind of contains, but what it boils down to is it's a slightly simplified interface for people that really focuses on the features that people use the most. But it also includes things that are meaning things like you can solve coding challenges directly inside the IDE, and we integrate with learning platforms. Now, those two IDEs are actually for free for everyone, even if they're not signed up at a university. If they're just studying on their own, they can always download these and just get started. And for all of our other IDEs, we also have an educational tools plugin, which enables the same kind of learning features even for the IDEs where you do need a license. So the key thing that we wanted to design with the PyCharm and IntelliJ educational editions is an experience where you can have all of your parts that you need to learn something new inside the IDE without having to tab out, tab back in, all these kind of things. So the way that it works, as you can see right here, is you can have the complete problem description for a coding challenge right inside the IDE. We have a new mechanism that uses placeholders so that you can, fill in the blank kind of problems. And you can also submit your challenges immediately from the IDE with a single button and get immediate feedback, which kind of tightens that cycle a little bit of getting feedback and kind of iterating on your solutions as well. But of course, courseware does not fall from the heavens. We understand that if you are an educator, you probably have a pretty clear idea of how you want to teach people. You don't want to take some random course someone created and just say, all right, you just do this. You want to customize things. And this is why we actually included all the tools that are required to build full courses inside the IDEs as well. You can build those, so you can build those for free completely as well. And that includes things like rich problem statements, where you can also embed images and videos, all these kind of things. You can define your sample solutions and then mark placeholders for people to fill in, have automated tests so that students get immediate feedback or learners get immediate feedback. And the most important thing is that we're not trying to lock you into any kind of ecosystem or sneak in some kind of subscription somewhere. At the end of the day, you can export your courses as a zip file and just send those over to your students on whatever platform you have, Moodle, or you just want to send them a really big email. All of that's perfectly possible. Of course, we also offer integrations with learning platforms, for example, JetBrains Marketplace. We have a couple of these integrations. Probably for the main part of this crowd, the most interesting one will be the last one on the list, which is Codeforces, because you can actually write from your IDE, open up any kind of previous Codeforces contests, and start the practice with a single click, which means, again, the whole thing just pops up a window. You'll see the whole description of your problems. You can write up your solution and submit it directly from the IDE without ever having to leave it, which might just be like a convenient little experience. Now, we also have some endeavors at JetBrains where we are rolling out our own learning platform, and that would start with, well, JetBrains Academy. So let's talk about that a little bit, because we found that teaching people programming is a really interesting task, but it's also a really challenging task. And we found that for a lot of people, it works very well when they have something that they anchor their knowledge to. So with JetBrains Academy, we essentially built a project-based learning platform. You pick out some kind of problem, or you pick out essentially some kind of project, which is like the guiding thing for what you want to do. You say, okay, I want to build some kind of calculator app, a bill splitter, or whatever. And then you just kind of complete stage after stage, task after task, and at the end of the day, you'll actually end up with a full project. And of course, this is always hard to pace for people, because different people have different kinds of previous knowledge. People sometimes already know things, sometimes they're missing just that one little thing. And this is kind of where our knowledge graph comes into play, where essentially we have a dependency graph of all the things you need to know to solve your problems or to solve these kind of projects. And depending on your previous knowledge, we just kind of different types of tasks that you different types of topics that you can usually complete within 15 minutes as a single unit, closer to what you need to submit to solve your problems. These also include things like code challenges, which once again, with a tight integration with our IDEs, single press of a button, you can solve them inside IntelliJ IDEA, CLion, or whatever. But it's also things like quizzes. Now, we actually have a bunch of different tracks, some of which might also be interesting for you, because I'm sure that, well, maybe if you're learning a new programming language, it might be interesting to, just do it with a little project. I personally know from experience that it can be kind of hard to find that initial motivation or that initial little problem that you want to solve with a new language, so that might be a little bit inspiring. But also just if you want to learn a new industry-proven framework, if you say you want to know more about how you're becoming a back-end developer, Android developer, all of these things, or you want to just see some implementations for certain algorithms in a different programming language, JetBrains Academy might be an interesting place for you to stop by. Something that we're, of course, also very excited about, because we are Kotlin people at heart, at least I am, is the fact that we offer 2 new Kotlin tracks, and that's the Kotlin Basics track and the Kotlin Dev track. Now, the Kotlin Basics track is available for everyone for free, and kind of gives you a first taste of the language and takes you all the way to the point where you can already be productive. And then with the Kotlin Developer track, where if you have a subscription for that one, you can also learn some advanced topics of the language and become a real professional Kotlin developer in probably no time. So if you are interested, especially in that second track, we have a QR code here. I was told to make a gesture so that people can know what to scan. That will give you access for a little bit longer. If you keep self-learning, we actually kind of continuously extend your free trials for a while, so you might not have to end up paying at all if you just keep at. We're just trying to motivate you there in that regard a little bit. If you currently don't want to scan code because it's just kind of awkward sitting like somewhere back there and the phone camera doesn't work and it's all smudgy, just stop by our booth again and we're more than happy to share that with you as well. Now, super briefly before we move on, because I don't want to take much more of this time, we're going to talk a little bit about Kotlin, a topic that is very dear to my heart, as I've said beforehand. To just kind of, get everyone on the same page, Kotlin is a programming language that we at JetBrains kind of conceived for the first time out of our own need to be more productive on the JVM. It's something that we started back in 2011. It's a language that's completely interoperable with Java. And when I say that, I mean that. It's to the point where you can literally instantiate a Kotlin object in Java the same way you would instantiate a Java object, and the other way around. It's also, of course, an open source project for us, but the big goal that we have with this is to make programmers a little bit happier. What we're really glad about is that the educational space has also kind of picked up on this language as well, with over 190 different universities all over the globe already teaching Kotlin. We're also very excited that during this symposium, we're also going to be talking a little bit more about Kotlin in education and for universities, because we think that it can bring a lot of good to people, and it might make people enjoy programming just a little bit more. Some of these universities, if we want to be braggy about it, 26 of the top 100 universities in the Times Higher Education rankings already include Kotlin in their course. And of course, if you are in a position to move a course to Kotlin once again, or that's something that's interesting to you, you know where to find us. We're right up there. I think we're the only booth that has a really nice glowing logo, which I think very much sets us apart. If you actually are more of a hands-on type learner and you want to compete with a couple of other people who also write Kotlin code, then we of course invite you to our Codeforces contest called Kotlin Heroes. It has already started, and we're actually going to see a bunch of the practice round content in just a little bit. But on October 7th, we're going to have the real challenge, and there's going to be a couple of prizes for you to win as well. So just as a small little incentive. Well, that's all I have for you today. I know this talk was kind of all over the place. That's kind of in the nature of an overview talk. If any of those things were of particular interest to you, once again, come talk to us. We're here all week. Let me tell you, I can guarantee you we're more than happy to spend even extended periods of times telling you what's going on. So yeah, stop by. Make sure that you have your free licenses, whether that's for yourself, for your classroom, or for your university. If you want to learn new technologies, make sure that you pick up your access codes for JetBrains Academy. And if you're looking for a job, or if you're looking to join a company where people are really passionate about making other people more productive, stop by, take a look at our internships, take a look at our open positions. We would be more than excited to have you. All right, with that, we're going to be moving on to Gennady's part of the talk. So I'm going to be stepping off, and yeah, I hope you still have a wonderful event. Take care.
One, two, three. Hello, everyone. And thanks to JetBrains for inviting me. I must say that I did not mean to steal the show, and I was not in charge of the font sizes. Anyway, we have this Kotlin Heroes contest, which you have heard of, as of now at least. And it's held on Codeforces. That's the announcement, and the practice round that is running right now. So it's the 8th edition. and I took part in most of the previous ones. And I'd say it's a pretty fun and cool way to learn language and get out of your comfort zone, so to say. So let's try to solve the practice round, and just let's go. OK. All right, so this is the IntelliJ IDE, and I'm using the EDU Tools plugin to have the problem statements right here. So the first problem is just a plus b. How do we start? So we need a main, and then we need to read input from standard input. So the default function is readLine, but to read integer we need, like, we can define another function which reads an integer, which is just convenient to have. It will be just readLine to int, and then we can have a function to read multiple integers on one line. And we need to map all of them to int as well. So that's how you can do that, and it's just convenient to have these functions in your template in general. And you can have functions for different types, for example, doubles, but we will probably not need them. And now we don't have to just answer one test case, we have multiple test cases. So to solve multiple test cases, we can just do something as simple as repeat readInt times. Now we need to read two integers. We just read a list of integers and destructure it into two values, because we know we'll have two values. And we just print the sum. All right. In this plugin, we have the Run Local Tests button, which will just test the examples for us. Yeah, we can see the local test passed, so we can just copy our code and submit it. So we just paste it here. We submit. And in some time, it will be tested. Maybe we should not wait. I mean, in queue, it's OK. Queues happen. We can just go to the second problem in the meantime. So in the second problem, yeah, this one is a bit longish, but yeah, let's resize and take a look. So we have some kind of football match. We have n yellow cards shown to the participants in total. We have A1 players on one team and A2 players on the second team. And the rules of sending players off are a bit different. The players of the first team have to receive 1 yellow cards to be sent off, and the second team has to get 2 yellow cards to get sent off, like 1 player. And we want to know the minimum and the maximum number of players could have been sent off. Maybe it has tested? Running on test 5. We are going good. Yeah. OK, so this is kind of your math, like maybe arithmetic textbook problem, but also requires some case analysis. So first, we can just read all the variables. We have the sizes of the teams. We have the numbers of cards. And we have the number of cards in total. OK, accepted. We have solved the first problem. Yeah, so what is the minimum number of players that? So each player on the first team can get K1 minus 1 yellow cards without getting sent off, right? So that number is number of yellow cards we can show to all the players on the first team without getting anyone sent off. And that's what we want to do, because we want the minimum number of players. And the same goes for the second team. Yep, so that's the number of cards we can show without getting anyone sent off, and every subsequent yellow card will send someone off. So the answer, let's say min, will be n minus this value. All right, almost there. Oops. Oh, sorry about that. That will be the minimum number. However, we don't want to get negative number of players sent off, so we should get the maximum of 0 and this number. And that will be the minimum number. What about the maximum number? We basically want the players to be sent off as soon as possible. So first we can make the first team the team which needs less yellow cards. So if that's not the case, we can just swap. And we can swap this way. There is no swap functions because we cannot pass variables as references, but this is pretty short anyway. And then, if n is not greater than a1 times k1, the answer will be just n divided by k1, rounded down. And otherwise, we will have a1 players, and then we divide that by k2, and that will be the maximum number. OK, I should not do that. I should just have a variable max. Let's define it as int. We will assign that to max. We'll assign that to max, and we'll print both values. We can do it like this. OK, let's see if we can pass the local tests. OK, we can. So let's submit. OK, that's kind of the process. This problem was just a mess. Let's go on. Hopefully it will pass soon. Yeah, the third problem, we have n cans in a row, and the I scan has durability AI. And it means that if we have already knocked x cans down, we will need AI times x plus 1 shots to knock this one down. All right. So basically, it just means that we get tired. So for the first can, we need 1 shot, and then for each subsequent can, the later the in time shots we will need. All right. Maybe I should not switch too often. Yeah, that we just have to shoot the cans in decreasing order of AI. And we have to print the number of shots we need and also the sequence in which we should knock down the cans. All right, so we have n, we have a, which will be a list of integers. How do we find the order of cans? We can do it like this. So first we take a. Since we need indices of the elements, we can call the function with index, which transforms all elements into indexed values, pairs of index and value. Now we can sort them by descending, at least, indeed, by values. Yeah, and now we have the order. OK. Keep going. Yeah, and also let's find the answer. This will be easier to do just with a for loop. Yeah, so for can number I, we will need bi value times I plus 1 shots. Right? Should be right. OK, and now we print result, and we print indices. So we can use join to string of space, and then we also need to only take the indices, and also we need to add 1, because we have 0-based indexing here, and we need 1-based indexing in the output. So we just it index plus 1 is how join actually. So let's test the solution. All right, so we have incorrect test 2 failed. And that happens because the order of indices can be arbitrary if there are multiple orders. So for example, in the second test case, we have 4 equal numbers, and we can just output any sequence, any permutation here. Since the plugin doesn't know, like it cannot check the answer, there is no checker provided by Codeforces, we can either like run all the test cases manually and take a look ourselves, or we can just submit, right? Because we just trust our instincts. In the meantime, we have second problem solved. Yeah, I suppose we will not wait for the third one. Thank you. Yeah, let's proceed to the first problem in the meantime. OK. We denote the function f of x, which is, OK, I suppose x is a positive integer. We add 1 to x, and then we remove trailing zeros in the number. Yeah, so for example, f of 599 is 6, and so on. And we say that some number y is reachable from x if we can apply function f to x multiple times so that we get y. OK, and then we are given a number, and we need to count how many different numbers are reachable from that number. OK. Yeah, I guess the main idea of this problem is that the number of reachable numbers is actually not that high, just because we will do in a trailing 0 is divide the number by 10, and then after at most 10 steps, we will divide the number by 10, so we will quickly get to a 1-digit number or so. So let's just simulate the process. So we have n. Yeah, it should be a variable here. Let's also have some set of added numbers. It will be hash set of integers. And now, while our set doesn't contain n, because if we make a loop, if we run into this number we have already seen, we don't need to continue, because we will obviously just see all the numbers that we have already seen. So we just add n. And now we have to apply f of n. We can just do it in place. So we just add 1, and now we need to remove trailing zeros. So while n is divisible by 10, let's just divide it by 10. And that's it. Yeah, then we try to add this number to the set again. OK, and in the end, we just print the size of the set. Right? Yeah, looks good to me. OK, third problem accepted, even though we did not test it on the samples, right? Don't try to repeat that at home. OK, we have tests passed for the first problem. Let's submit it. Yeah, actually, we can also, instead of checking contains and adding, we can just add it here. And the method add will just return a Boolean value whether the insertion was successful. To work, actually. Let's just try it on the local tests. OK, we don't need to submit again. Yep, let's go to the next problem. We are given a string of characters 0s and 1s. And we want all 1s in the string to form a contiguous subsegment. So, for example, yeah, this is the example of good strings, and these are the examples of bad strings. All right, and we may erase some zeros from the string, and we want to erase the smallest number of zeros possible. All right. So we are not allowed to erase any ones. We can only erase zeros. So all the ones are kept in the string. And we want all the ones to be like to form a subsegment. So basically, we can find the first one in the string. We can find the last one in the string. And you have to remove all the zeros in between, right, between them. Yeah, let's just do that. So in this problem, we have multiple test cases again. So we just repeat readint again. Let's say we read the string. It will be read line double band because the value can be null. But we know it will not be null. OK, let's find the index of the first zero. We can use index of a char of 1, for example, right? Yep. There is a special case if there are no ones in the string at all. Yeah, for example, in this example, we have a string of just 1, 0. Then we don't remove anything. And in this case, index of will return -1. So if that happens, we just print 0. And otherwise, now we need to find the position of the last one. We can just use last index of 1 again. So we now have 2 positions. And we need to count zeros between positions I and j. Basically, we can just take a substring. Yeah, we can call substring in different ways. We can call it from I to j, for example. I guess we can also make it I until j, or we can do it I double dot j, which is a bit different, but in this case, position j has 1 anyway, so it doesn't matter. You can keep it like this, and you count zeros. So that's how we can do that. And we need just to print that number, whatever. Answer. This will be some variable, and we just print it. OK, let's try. So yeah, obviously, like you can also just use some for loops. You can use a for loop to find the first one to last one. You can use maybe the same for loop or a different for loop to count zeros. But as you can see, you can also just use some built-in functions, and it will be fairly concise, right? All right, accepted as well. Yes. Going all the way. All right, let's go to the next problem. Yeah, it's also a bit lengthy, so let's resize. We have 2 matrices of the same size. Each element of A is 0 or 1, or each element of B is 0. And we may perform some operations with B. We choose any submatrix of B, which is size 2 times 2, and replace all the elements with 1. This is the formal definition. And we want to make B equal to A. And the question is if it's possible to make them equal and then come up with a sequence of operations that achieves that, if it's possible. All right, so this is kind of like the stamps, I don't know, problem. Like we have a stamp of size 2 times 2, and we can stamp it somewhere on matrix B, and we want to make it equal to A. And since we don't need to minimize the number of operations, we can just make an operation in every position where we can do that. So we just take any 2 times 2 submatrix in A. If it contains all ones, we can just make an operation, like here, position 1, 1, position 1, 2, and position 2, 2. And after that, we just compare A and B. And if they are equal, then we have achieved our goal. Otherwise, we print -1 in this case. All right, let's implement that. So we have the sizes of the matrix. Yeah, it should be read ints, but we have 2 ints. And now we have the matrix itself. let's make it a list of size n, and we can just initialize each element of the list with a list of integers read from input. So this is pretty short. We can just read the matrix this way. And now let's also create B. It will be it will be a list of lists again, but we'll need to change it. So we can define mutable list of size n, size m, 0. All right, and we will also need a sequence of operations. Well, for example, we can define a class. Basically, you can also use pair, which is available in Kotlin, but we can just use, I don't know, step, which will have I and j. And we will have a result, which will be some mutable list of steps. OK? So, and now let's just check all possible 2 times 2 submatrices. So, for example, we can go from 0 to n minus 2, right? From 0 to m minus 2. Now we have to check if this submatrix is good. What does it mean? If all the elements are ones. In this case, we add a new step at ij, and we also change the corresponding values in B. You can probably make a for loop here, but 4 lines, so it's not really needed. OK, so if A is not equal to B in the end, we can just compare with not equal. We just print -1. Otherwise, we print the size of the result, and we print the operations. So we just join to string them. We don't have to. We can just iterate over them, but you can also join to string with \n as a delimiter. And we also, again, need to transform each pair into a string. So it will be I, again, +1, because we need one indexing, and +1 here. OK, let's try. All right, passes the local tests. Let's submit. And let's proceed to the next problem. And this will be probably the last problem because of our limited time, but let's take a look at it anyway. This problem is interactive. What it means, I guess most of you know, obviously, but anyway, in just given some input and you print some output, and in interactive problems, you do that multiple times. You read some input, you print some output, then again you read some more input, and so on. So you just interact with the testing system. We have an integer x picked by the judges in these ranges, and you have to guess that number. And you can make at most 2 queries. OK? And each query should consist of 100 integers. And in response to our query, the judge will pick one of these 100 integers and tell us the value of exclusive OR of one of our 100 integers and the secret integer. And we also need all the 200 integers to be distinct. And we need to guess the number, right? OK, let's take a look at f. OK, f accepted, good. Our integer is not greater than 2 to 14 minus 1, so it means that it consists of 14 bits, right? How can we extract some information from the testing system? Like, the actual problem is that we have to give 100 integers, and we will be given the XOR with some one of them. we will not be able to tell with which one. So it's hard to just find the result value because, like the secret value, I mean, because we have at least 100 candidates, right? But let's see, for example, if our number is small, like for example 1, if we provide an integer 1, x XOR 1 will be kind of close to x, right? So let's see, for example, if we just provide integers from 1 to 100, then the result will have, it will be x XOR 1 or x XOR 2 or x XOR 100 or anything in the middle. But the highest 7 bits of the result we will be given will match the 7 bits from x. And this way we can extract the highest 7 bits from x. And we have 2 queries, and we have extracted half of the bits. So now let's just do the same, but with the lower bits. If we provide integers 1 to 100 multiplied by 128, which is 2 to the power of 7, we will be able to get the lowest 7 bits of the result. And we will form the secret value from these 2 queries. So we'll need exactly 2 queries. Yeah, let's implement this. Yeah, so the interaction format, we have to print a question mark followed by exactly 100 integers and not 3. All right. So we just print question mark, and we have to follow it with, OK, in the first query, we want to print integers from 1 to 100. Let's just have a range from 1 to 100. And yeah, just join it to string, I suppose. And print ln automatically flushes the output, so we don't need to make any extra flush statements. Now we can read the first integer given to us by the interactor. OK, now we want to make the second query. We need integers from 1 to 100, but multiplied by, like shifted by 7 bits. So we can, again, have, oh, a bit too much. These hints are, of course, can be turned off if you get too annoyed. Or if you have a larger screen, you will probably not have a problem. But here we have big font for you to see. So we can just map all the integers to shift them by 7. Basically, this is just how we do it. You just map all the integers into the same value, shifted by 7. And again, we just join them to string. And now we read the second value we are given. And we just need to take the highest 7 bits of A and the lowest 7 bits of B. So how do we take the highest 7 bits of A? For example, we can just shift A to the right by 7 and then to the left by 7. So you just shift and then get back, and you erase the lowest 7 bits. And for the lowest 7 bits of B, we just end it with 1 to 7 minus 1, right? And we print x. Not just x, we print exclamation mark x. All right? We can run local tests, but it would not make much sense because we cannot know what input we will be given by the system. We get incorrect. We can compare outputs, but that's not really useful in this case. In any case, like again, it's a bit difficult test, but it's just the property of interactive problems in general. But we can probably just, oh yeah, it's already running. We can just type some integers here and see that at least the protocol is what we expect. And, you know, just submit. All right. Yeah, that was it. I guess we will not take, there are 2 more problems, but they are probably harder than these ones, and that's all I have for today. So once again, thanks all for your attention, and I hope to see you in Kotlin Heroes 8.
Thank you, Gena. And